Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and right here you're looking at a new CAD project of myself. So, this is probably quite obviously detectable as a form of Testbench, and the backstory for why I did this is the following. So, recently, well not recently, a couple months ago at this point, I went to Stuttgart again for another bench meet with Team Hardware Reactor Reloaded. And that time, I wanted to bring a proper test bench with me. Last time, I just bought just the board and then put it up on like a box or something, and it was a bit janky. I wanted to bring a proper test bench this time. But I travel by train, and I travel pretty far, and it's not easy to bring a very big, bulky test bench. My go-to test bench is a Tech EZ-V3. That does fit in my travel box, but nothing else will fit in it with that test bench, so I can't really take any hardware with me. So instead, I took my old test bench, which is like a Cooler Master HAF X Evo case, if I remember correctly. That one just about fits and leaves enough room to like put other stuff in that I need to take, and also you can put stuff in the case, which you can't with the test bench. So I took that, and it worked pretty well. The only problem is you can't really put like big graphics cards in it because the front is in the way, and I kind of saw a better solution anyway. So ASIC brought his test bench, which is also a Tech, but he has like the smaller version. It still fits ATX cases, but the test bench is basically the size of an ATX motherboard, and you can maybe kind of see the intention here. So I really liked his setup because it has all the functionality, minus the radiator mounts. So he had to drill some holes into his to mount a small radiator. My test bench can fit two 360s, and it does fit two 360s. So water cooling is the only drawback of that smaller test bench, but everything else worked just fine. And I really like that small test bench because it also takes up less space on the desk, and all that sort of stuff. And I first thought I was just gonna get one of those. Problem. Tech closed doors quite a while ago. Like, yeah, they don't exist anymore. You can sometimes still find some of their stuff, but recently the person that was like administering the warehouse with all the leftover stuff did like a huge giveaway, basically just getting rid of all of it because I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So now Tech stuff is basically gone unless you can find some retailer that still has some stock left over. So that's not really an option anymore. And then again, it still had that problem of like not really fitting water cooling, like you having to mod it into fitting it. So I thought, well, what if I design my own? And to keep tradition with, you know, the manufacturing techniques that I have access to, we're gonna make this whole thing 3D printed. Now, 3D printed test bench, it's not a new concept. Some of these already exist, but none of them exist in the way that I wanted to do it. Specifically, I wanted dual 360 radiator support. And that's just something that didn't exist quite yet. And yeah, at the same time, I also wanted to try a new thing. You can see this is in Solid Edge. It's no longer in Fusion 360 because I wanted to try a new CAD program. It did work. Like, I mean, the model exists and it works. I just have to say, Solid Edge is so much more clunky. And the same is true of SolidWorks. I work with that too briefly, and Fusion 360 is a buggy mess, but at least, like, it's an efficient buggy mess. Doing things in Fusion 360 takes like half the time, even if you factor in like the like some tools just not working and you having to find a workaround. Traditional CAD programs like this have some quirks that make working just a little bit harder if you don't follow like the exact workflow that they had in mind, which I don't. So yeah, it did work. I'm probably not using Solid Edge for stuff in the future. I'm just gonna do this project in it, and yeah. Anyway, so 3D printed test bench. So I designed all of this to fit on like an Ender 3 sized print bed, which is why like the top part here is split into 4, because you need a bigger print bed for that. Actually, like this entire thing would fit on like pretty much not... Well, actually, it might fit on like the Orange Storm Giga. That's the one thing it would fit on. It will not fit on like an SV08 or CR10 or anything like that, because it's like 400 something by 400 something. It's pretty big. So, yeah. But to make this whole thing 3D printed, it basically relies on this slot dowel system. So everything just slides together like this. And you can also see the individual pieces sliding together with like these pieces. It's not super rigid. My recommendation for making it more rigid is like to just glue the things in once you have them in place. But then of course you can't take the thing apart again. So it's a compromise. I haven't glued mine together, and it's rigid enough. Like once you mount a motherboard on it and you put the components in, it gets pretty rigid. But it's still a bit bendy. Like yeah, it's plastic. It's 3D printed. Like it's not gonna be the same as a test bench made out of steel, but you can use it without gluing things together. Like I'm doing it just fine. And yeah, the design philosophy was basically make the physically smallest test bench that fits an ATX motherboard, two 360mm radiators and a pump, and that's basically what you're looking at. So we have the two main pieces that slot together to make the mount for the motherboard. You're meant to put some M3, or yeah, I think it's M3, thread inserts into these holes right here, and then you can screw the motherboard in. We have an I/O shield that also slots in like this. You're also meant to like put some threaded inserts into these holes, and then you can like screw your graphics cards in and everything, so it doesn't entirely rest on the slot. And then at the bottom, this is actually an entirely modular system. You don't have to arrange it like this, because like the power supply mount and the back support, which has like holes for tubing and SSDs and also further cutouts for extra things to add like more tube mounts or like a fan mount, all of these use the same spacing for their mounts. So you can swap these around anywhere you want. Like it will fit on any side. So that's something that I didn't really plan for, but like it was easy enough to implement. So if you want to have the radiators like front to back rather than side to side, you can do that. Like the system accounts for that. Yeah. And then we have also things like fan mounts for 120 and 140 mil, because you know, when you do RAM overclocking, you want some airflow over your RAM, because some ICs are heat sensitive. So that's why there's a fan mount here as well. And then like the back thing right here has this bottom piece, which is like it allows you to put like some cable ties through those holes and then like tie a pump to it, because the pump that I'm using is like one of these cheap AliExpress ones. It's not like a proper D5 or anything, and because of that I haven't designed a mount for it. So the way I do it is just like put it down here. Well, actually I hypothetically put it on here because this is a newer version. This is like the version 1.1. The one I've printed is actually the 1.0, and it doesn't have like this bottom section. But yeah, the idea is that you just like use some cable ties to fix the pump in place. And it's a bit janky, but like it works. I use cable ties to just fix the pump like to some cables and tubes. And that also works. Like for transport, you can pull the thing up without having any cables like fall off the bottom. It's just that this bottom piece is gonna make it, you know, much easier in the future. So yeah, as for the motherboard mounts, well, this fits ATX and ITX. It also fits MATX, but it doesn't have the two bottom like screw hole mounts for MATX, so the bottom will be slightly unsupported. But like you can put it on here. So like yeah, it just has the ATX mounting holes. So anything that also uses the ATX mounting holes will fit. Anything that needs extra mounting holes is gonna be slightly unsupported. And yeah, and that's pretty much the design. There's not really anything complicated about this, like everything just slots together, you put some thread inserts in, and then like the power supply just screws in. And then like here you can just put your water cooling tubes through. And like in the sides here you can mount the SSDs and that sort of stuff. And then yeah, like of course radiators go here. There's also some spacers because I designed these for myself. These are just because I had like radiator screws that were slightly too large or like too long. So I needed these spacers so I don't drill into the radiator. So these are just, yeah, if you don't have the exact right length of screw, because I noticed some radiator screws are actually like very barely too short, because like this is still 3D printed plastic. This is already a pretty thin piece, and some radiator screws are like so tight tolerance they actually won't reach through this piece anymore. So yeah, I had to order some longer screws, and then those were too long and I had to make these spacers. So that's a bit of a caveat here, but like I just can't really make the mounts thinner. They will break. I already broke one of them by accident. So I really can't make these any thinner, so it's just something we kind of have to deal with. Yeah. And with that, I think it's time to just show you the one that I've built. You know, show you what I like, show you what I don't like, and what my plans for a potential version 2 will be. Because while this works, like while I'm ready to put this project out, so that, you know, someone just, if you need a test bench, you can do this. It's probably way cheaper than buying like an open bench table. And it's basically the same utility. Yeah, but like there's some things about this that I don't really like, and I might do a total redesign of this, which will be a V2. I'm just not sure if I will do that yet, because the test bench as it is, it works. There's just a couple of things about it that I don't quite like, but let's take a look at the full thing. So, little cut, and be right back. Before we continue, I'd like to thank my sponsor, PCBWay. If you are working on a project of your own that requires parts that would be hard to make yourself, or just generally parts at a much higher quality standard, you can go to PCBWay's website and order anything from PCB prototypes, assemblies, CNC parts, 3D printed parts, as well as stencils or even flexible circuit boards. The ordering process is simple. You just upload your files, tell them some stuff that you need, and you'll quickly receive a quote, which once accepted, will mean that your part can get shipped out within as fast as 24 hours. And if you have any questions or require further help, they even have a live chat service that stands ready for you. So if you need some custom-made project parts, don't delay, go to PCBWay today. Alright, so here it is, the CMD Testbench V1. And yeah, so it has the Ryzen PC in it right now, so this is an MATX board, and this is what I talked about, like this screw hole and this screw hole. They're not supported, but like it's still fine, like, yeah. Also, this is not screwed in because you can see this is how it is in the CAD, and this is how the others are that I actually made. So these standoffs used to be way smaller, and then I realized you can't route any cables below the board like this. So yeah, I have like some 3D printed spacers at the bottom of the board to make this entire thing work, and it just sits on top. It's not screwed in at all, and I mean like sturdy, like it flexes a little bit, and I mean like, yeah, but it's sturdy enough to like use it, and it is decently sized. Like it has the extra space on the sides because like the radiator mounts need to fit in there, which is actually kind of handy because then you have like this small section for like all the wires to sit on, and like other things like, you know, stray CPU or like a Ethernet expansion card or whatever. And yeah, like it just kind of works when assembled. And you can see we have like the radiators on each side. I even have a push-pull setup, so like it has enough space to fit that. Here you can see the spaces that I meant, like because the screws I have were just a little bit too long. And you can also see I made these fan grills. Didn't mention these in the CAD program, but yeah, I made these because you know, you see here like you have some wires pretty close to the entire thing, and I don't like them being sucked in because these Arctic fans, like this Ethernet cable is really a problem. These Arctic fans, they like to break very easily because of how the blades are designed. So if anything strikes them, a pretty good chance it breaks off. So I wanted to protect them by putting these grills on. So yeah, those are also part of the CAD model. And yeah, like there's not much to show here, really. It's just like the thing works, it's assembled. Yeah, and it's just, it works. I've been using this for quite a while. And if you want to build this, it's gonna be up on my printables as soon as the video is out. It's gonna be up for free, because like it's not that big of a project. I did put a decent amount of time into it, but that's just because Solid Edge is harder to work with than Fusion 360. But yeah, you can have this, and like, it is probably the physically smallest test bench there is that has dual 360 push-pull support. I'm fairly sure about saying that, because like, this is how much clearance is between them, and you just need that to route like the water tubes. Like, there is not a lot of free space in the middle. Like you can see here, yeah, this one doesn't have the bottom plate because it's the old version. So yeah, so if you need a test bench that doesn't take up that much space but has dual 360 push-pull support, you can use this one. Yeah, like I've already sent the files to some other people. At least one other person also built like the full test bench, like the version 1.1, and said it works just fine. So I guess it's beta tested. And yeah. So here's some of the few things that I don't quite like. The first thing I don't like is the fan mount. I mean, the fan mount works, but the way how it's plastic is like, the fan should be sitting like this, but it's sitting like this. So like it's, the air goes like up here and not along here. It's still okay, especially if you use a 140 like this. I just don't quite like how it is, and that's just because it is 3D printed and it's a really thin piece that's not supported, so it just like, yeah, it just kind of bends over time from the weight. So like it's not very good. I need to find the holes to put it in again. Come on. There we go. So yeah, I'm not super proud of that one. I don't really know how to fix that. Like, gonna find some way to redesign it. And it's kind of the same for the radiator mounts. Again, really, really thin piece of plastic. And I mean, you can lift this up. If you want to lift this up, I recommend to do it like under the PSU mount, and then the other hand under the like other foot, because that way you're like holding up the piece that's connecting both of the top ones together. I wouldn't lift it up by like here or something, because then you're putting a lot of stress on like the joints, and those joints can break. So you can transport this around. You just need to like be careful about it. Like, don't lift it by the weak areas. And yeah, like this is like the main problem. One thing I also don't like about this is like the cable routing, but I did kind of solve this with the version 1.1. Like you see, it doesn't have, oh, my camera dongle just died. That's cool. Guess we're doing it by hand now. So, yeah, brief interruption. The camera thing ran out of battery and it just shut off. So yeah, now it's not gonna be as stabilized anymore because I'm just holding the phone in my hand now. But yeah, so I kind of solved the cable routing thing with the version 1.1. Like you can see in the cat model, the 1.1 has like a hole for water tubes right here, so it doesn't rest on the floor anymore, and like everything is held in place better. And like it has the bottom piece for the aft, and like you can kind of see how it sags through a little bit. That's why I meant like, yeah, glue them together if you want it super rigid. And like, yeah, that's again the main problem. It's just like, it's not really super rigid. It works, but I don't like how thin these plastic pieces are. They have to be this thin for like the mounts to work, but I'm thinking you could redesign the mounts. I'm thinking you could make the radiator mounts the way this power supply mount works, by having it like go from the outside. And this is like a shell, like, so the power supply slides into this and then gets mounted, like on the side, on the top and on the bottom, like this goes back. So like the power supply rests in this, and then the screws are just for holding it in. The screws are not like load bearing. And I'm thinking of doing something like this for the radiators and the fan mounts, because this would be a lot more rigid. The only problem is this would also massively, well, not really massively if I design it well, but it will increase the size, which like one of the original design goals was to make this like space efficient. And it will also massively, actually massively this time, increase the amount of like 3D printed material you need and the amount of print time that you need. Like one of these top sections already takes like 6 hours, and that's on a fast printer, because there's this massive like top area. Like big flat pieces take ages to print, because there's so many top and bottom layers. And yeah, like these fill out not an entire print bed, but like they're big enough that you can't really fit any other parts on the print bed with them. So it already takes quite a bit to print. It took me like 2 days to print this, and I have 6 3D printers. Admittedly, only 4 of those kind of... 2 of them are like large formats that are like pretty slow, and I don't really use them for stuff like this. But still, I have more 3D printers than most people do. And because I mod them and tune them pretty hard, they are probably also faster than what most people have. So yeah, it already takes a bit to print. It's still faster than like ordering a test bench and waiting, a week for it to arrive. But like, just keep in mind, this is gonna use up like around 1 kilogram of PLA. So like, it's just a spool of PLA is in this test bench. So that's that. And then also, of course, the print time to go through that entire spool. Now you can see the different colors. So this was done by different printers. So I cut down the amount of time it needs. But yeah, if you only have one printer, that's a pretty big drawback. But yeah, I still like the result of this project. Like I have my, there it is. There's the good old DMAS Tech test bench, and like, it's pretty big. Like, it's quite a lot bigger. And like, yeah, it has a proper D5 pump and everything, and it has this nice like bendable arm for the ram fan and everything, and it has a lot more cable management holes. But like, from a pure capability standpoint, this thing is just as good. It fits just as much radiator as the DMAS Tech does. And yeah, like, it works just as well, and it's smaller, and you can access the power supply better because I have it at the front. The DMAS Tech has it like on the side. And I also like how the radiators are on the side, because like if you have it right up against the wall with a lot of wires running there, the back radiator also doesn't have that much space. And because the pump is, you can see it down here, it's kind of come out, but like you can push it like on the inside. It also doesn't take up as much space as the D5 hanging on the back there. It's not that much of a difference, but it's smaller. And on this desk, like, here's my soldering area, test bench, and then PC setup for running the test bench. Space is at a bit of a premium here, so I appreciate having this take up less space and still have the same cooling capability. So yeah, we have like CPU cooling, and then here we have the quick disconnects for adding a GPU into the loop, and it's all nice. So yeah, that's probably it. Like that was a pretty random video. It's just a project that I've been working on, and I think it's ready now. Like, I'm still thinking about a V2, but it will be like a full redesign of the entire thing. So I don't know when that's gonna happen, if it's gonna happen. The thing works as it is, it just has those couple quirks. And like, if you're fine working around with that, you can get the files for free on my printables, and you can make yourself a test bench that's more space efficient while still having a ton of water cooling support. And with that, goodbye!